This story about infinite mage on one fine evening when Vincent heard some weird noises outside his house. He immediately grabbed his trusty axe and went outside to check around if there is anything that shouldn't be there. After seeing that there was nothing, lastly he went to the barn to check. And in the barn there was also nothing, so he thought to himself that he must be hallucinating, but soon enough he saw a child lying on the straw. After checking if it was alive he hugged it. Then his wife saw him and questioned if anything was wrong. Then the husband answered that it seemed to be theirs child, so they embraced it in love and attention it needed. After 12 years we see Ch1 again reading a book named The Story of the King Mage. In the middle of reading he heard the voice of his father asking him if he was reading a book. Vincent hugged him and told him that he gathered enough wood and so they could go back home and eat, but before doing that Ch1 asked his father what he had to do to use magic. Vincent questioned him if magic really is so amazing. Since with one arrow you can kill a boar, with one strike you could fell a tree, so wouldn't that be magic? When walking back home some kids noticed them and started talking about how Ch1 never plays with them even when they ask, and that Ch1 doesn't look anything like Mr. Vincent. And their mothers saying that Ch1 isn't his child. Unfortunately Vincent heard them and got angry, but at the same time worried about Ch1, but Ch1 didn't care and said with one strike to a tree it's magic. Vincent, not thinking about the kids bad-mouthing them, said to Ch1 that for helping him tomorrow they would go to the city. Ch1 was excited. Meanwhile Vincent thought that he was a lacking father, but no matter what Ch1 he thought of him as his son. Meanwhile Ch1 was thinking about wanting to know more about magic. When the next day arrived they went to a city in a rural part of the kingdom of Thormia which was called Craze. Ch1 was amazed at the sight of the city. The streets were full of people. After arriving Vincent told Ch1 to wait for him at Martin's grandfather's shop. And to not go into dark valleys and not to run into a noble. Ch1 agreed to it. After a while Ch1 was helping to write for old shopkeeper. In meantime Ch1 asked old shopkeeper if he knew what was magic, but unfortunately he didn't know anything about magic. But he told Ch1 if he wanted to know something about magic he could go to bookstore at the next street. So Ch1 went to look for a little bit. As he was going the old shopkeeper was reminiscing about the past when he was reading such books, but when he opened Ch1's book he was surprised with drawings about magic. After that we are cut to Ch1's hand being slapped by the lady saying that he can't touch these book with his dirty hands, so Ch1 asked if he could have a little look. The lady answered him that a commoner can't even look at them, saying that these books are different. While the lady was asking him another question she was interrupted by a customer. While she was distracted Ch1 flipped through the books, but he didn't find anything he could make of use. After leaving he said to himself that it was hard to look at the books. Soon after he saw a man carrying a box with books, so he followed him to see that they were dumping the books to a pile of them. Ch1 was shocked at the sight of this. He thought to himself that this must be the place where his father got his book from. He thought that nobles so not so different from him, so how could they but not him? Ch1 didn't realize he was walking to a place he shouldn't go to and was stopped by a guard saying that this is not a place for kids like him to walk around by themselves. That beyond the gate is the area for nobles only. The guard questioned Ch1 where was he from and where were his parents. Ch1 said that they were around here as he was leaving. Other guard grabbed his jacket and said that he was suspicious and that he wasn't living there. He also said that he might be an errand boy that a group of thieves are raising. So the first guard said that Ch1 would need to come with them, but as the guards looked at him again he wasn't there. As they were yelling at each other to go look for him and how embarrassing it was to lose a child, but Ch1 was hiding right next to them and left after they were gone. When he left his hiding place he was quiet, dirty, and when going for a shoe he heard someone talking about magic, which piqued his interest almost instantly. Someone else asked the headmaster to show them how he extinguishes a fire. As they said this, Ch1 thought that this must be a magic school. Headmaster said that he would get into trouble if he were to use fire at school, so he said that if they answer the question correctly he would show them. And the question was what is needed the most in learning magic. the children answered wisdom, effort, money, and so on. After everyone answered, the children asked headmaster to tell them the answer. Ch1 thought that if it isn't money or wisdom, then you have to be a noble. Then the headmaster answered that the most crucial talent is insight. The children asked what is insight. Headmaster answered with a question, does anyone know what 1 + 1 is? The children answered that everybody knows and that it's obvious it's 2. Then headmaster asked if anyone can explain why it's 2. The children answered that's because it's obvious. At that the headmaster said that the weird feeling is what's called insight, and that those who lived long ago didn't know hat was 1 + 1 until efforts of countless scholars proved that it was, and that we understand that 1 + 1 is 2 without the complicated verification. Because from the existing rules of this world that beyond knowing things you learn, there are things you need to feel and accept through conceptualization, and that magic too is a law within the world. You need to feel it wholly and accept it through your insight, so insight is more accurate than wisdom and faster than effort. Children said that's ingenious. Headmaster answered them that of course it's ingenious, that you have to cultivate your talent so you could too become a mage. At that moment Ch1 thought that would he have a chance to become a mage? Then the headmaster said that he would like to know the thoughts of the child on the other side of the wall. Ch1 thought that he was caught. He asked himself if he needed to run away again. On top of that he looked like a mess. He didn't know what will happen. But the other thought was stronger, and it was that if he doesn't jump over this wall he will forever regret it. So he climbed it. As he poked his head over the wall he saw a group of people. The headmaster asked him if he came to accompany this old man. At that he didn't think of anything else and jumped over.